Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. And today's theme, our episode title is Are You Holding Yourself Back Without Realizing It? I have had too many clients recently presenting themselves with the same ongoing issues and problems. And I just thought it'd be really good to put this all together and put it out there because a lot of us are struggling with these issues and we're not even aware of it. And we're going around in circles trying to fix things, getting frustrated and putting all of this work and effort in and not seeing the transformation or the shift. So grab yourself a cup of tea, sit down, go on your walk, or do whatever you need to do, pop your earphones in, and let's begin. So, the main thing that I've been seeing is people absolutely exhausted. And yes, there's mothers that have two under two, or people working full time and caring for their elderly parents, or minding the grandchildren and running a household. And we all live very, very different lives. And there's no one size that fits all when it comes to healing or when it comes to um, working with our energy. The main thing is that we get to the root cause. Why are we feeling this way? What are we struggling with? And how can we begin to create long lasting shifts and changes? And a big thing that I say to my clients is, do you feel like every day that you're pushing a bolster up the side of a mountain? And they're like, yes, I can always feel like I'm fighting against the day, or I wake up with this anxious feeling and I just have to get on with the day as quickly as possible and just get to the end of the day. And to be honest, that is no way to live. Like, we didn't come here to exist like that, just trying to get from one end of the day to the next. We came here to live life, not to just merely survive. Um, and it's really upsetting because, we think, oh, one day it'll get easier. One day, I won't have as much on. But we know that's not the case. Life is just getting busier and busier and busier. And there just seems to be no room to take a deep breath or to sit down and enjoy a cup of tea and without the pressure of this constant doing, 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 or the never ending to do list. And, thankfully, I work with people that are trying their best to, implement some changes or trying this book or trying this course or doing that. But if you're out of alignment, this is like throwing your money out the window. It'll absolutely have no effect because when you are out of alignment, your energy is scattered all over the place. And whatever energy that you're putting into change and trying to do things differently is not showing any change. You're not receiving the fruits of your labor. And that is so, so, so frustrating. Believe me, I've been there, I've done that, I've worn the t-shirt. And this is the problem. We try to do it all ourselves. So it's like walking around a room in the dark trying to look for the light switch. And it is very hard to heal when you're in a hole. And what I mean by that is when the world is imploding in you or on top of you and you're grappling at every shiny new thing that brings promise of healing or change or transformation. But if you're working externally, these changes, you may get some immediate change, but it won't be long lasting. And you'll very quickly revert back to your old ways because the mind loves familiarity and the mind doesn't love change. And it'll try and keep you in that realm or in that reality for as long as possible because it's comfortable, it's familiar, it's predictable. So people often find themselves back in the same place again, saying, I've tried this, I've tried that, and nothing has changed. Um, and they're dealing with a lot of exhaustion, overwhelm, anxiety, overthinking, and constantly criticizing themselves and picking themselves apart. And again, that is hell on earth. Like that is really, really not a nice place to be. And a lot of people come to me when they're at their wits' end and they're like, yeah, I'm just going to feel like this forever. Like I have surrendered to the fact that this is who I am. And sometimes it's easier to just accept that and just let it wash over you like a massive wave, because fighting against that is a battle that you will never win unless you get into alignment. So, what is alignment? And we hear all of these fancy words thrown around the place, but does anyone actually explain what alignment is? So, alignment in energetic terms or in embodiment terms is when your head, heart, and your body are in one line or in communication. And there's a flow of energy and there's a synergy between these three places, because they're like three different personalities. Your head is going to have one opinion, your heart is going to have another, and your body's going to have another. Each one of them are right in their own way, but if we do not have awareness or access to these different centers, we are going to feel completely overwhelmed, and we're not going to be able to listen to the cues and signals of what each one needs. And this is what I help people do, is to get out of the head, into the body, and reconnect with their heart. Um, and when they do that, that's when the real change begins to happen, because they're like, wow, the answer was there all along. I just had to go inside. But if you're living from the neck up, if you have completely disconnected and disassociated from your body, you've closed off your heart, the only way is up. And up, I mean into the mind. And your mind is programmed to think negatively in order to keep you safe. It always thinks the worst case scenario to prepare you. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we have to be logical, we have to be sensible, we have to mind ourselves. But if that is in constant control, we'll always stay in our comfort zone. We won't dare to take any risks. We won't put ourselves out there. We won't try new things because our mind was like, don't do that. You're going to fall flat in your face. People are going to judge you. So there's always going to be this negative undertone over everything that you do. Oh, you need to be skinnier. Oh, you need to look a certain way. Oh, you need to have this to be happy. Oh, you need that. So the mind is never present and the mind is never at peace unless you are in alignment. So the seed of the mind is actually silence. And if you can get to that place where your mind is quiet, then you know that you're in alignment. Now, the second center that we become very disassociated or disconnected from is the heart. The heart. And, the heart is non judgmental. The heart sees everything as an experience, and the heart is always open, again, when in alignment. And I always use my heart as my compass, because my head is going to be saying one thing. I'm like, okay, let me drop down into the heart. What does the heart have to say? And the heart will always show me what is for me and what is not for me, simply through an expansion and a contraction. So I will bring something to my mind, like a future experience or a decision that I have to make. And, my mind is telling me all of these things. But when I drop down into my heart, I ask a simple question: how will I feel if this comes about? And if there is a contraction, I'm like, okay, that's a no. And if there's an expansion, I'm like, okay, let me explore this a little bit further. And then I drop down into my body. And, a lot of people, especially women, have become so disconnected from their body for many reasons: trauma, abuse, they're living in their masculine energy. Um, they're very career driven and they don't take time to just be. There's so many reasons why you can become disconnected from your body. But the body is always showing you signs and signals through sensation. But again, we become so dismissive of the sensations, the little aches, the pains, the tingles, the butterflies. And this is all information. And we are constantly receiving information from the body, and we're constantly ignoring it. So what happens? We have all of this information coming into a dysregulated nervous system, and it is like, I don't know if you remember years ago when they'd have like these call connection centers where there's all these people in a room and they're connecting different people through different wires, through different calling links. And that's a little bit what's happening underneath the surface or underneath the surface. And when that service is running smoothly, everybody gets connected to who they need to be connected to. But if one person is sick or if there's only one person managing that call center, well, then there's just pure chaos and everything gets shut down. And this is what happens to people when they come to me. They shut down and they surrender, like I said, to the fact I'm always going to feel like this. I'm anxious. I can't sleep. I never have enough hours in the day. I'm so unhappy. I'm trying all these things and nothing's working because they're so disconnected and there's all of these mixed messages. And then they just go into shutdown and they shut off the signals from the neck down and they just live from the head up. And that's a very dark place to exist. Um, and, you know, it can take one session to feel a little bit of lightness or see a little bit of hope or feel a little bit of hope, but it's not a one and done. This is something that we have to do for ourselves every day. So I always say to people, the real work starts when you leave the session. Because when people come to work with me, the first thing I do is a breath analysis, because this often shows why people are anxious. They're mouth breathing, they're breathing into their chest, they're barely breathing at all, they're holding their breath. And again, this is sending signs and signals to the brain and the body that be in alert. This is a stressful situation, even if they're sitting in a peaceful garden listening to the birds. Then, after I teach them how to breathe properly or how to breathe normally, then we start some embodiment exercises. And that will look so different for everybody because there's hundreds of ways to get into the body and there's hundreds of ways to connect with the body. So I will do whatever way that is most in alignment with that person. And then the third thing that we will often do is energy healing. So when the person is lying on the bed, we will do some Reiki or Taoist practices or energy healing that can realign their energy. And what people often experience is magical, like they feel different sensations. They might connect with dreams, visions, angels, ancestors. Like when we go into that non-ordinary state, anything is possible. And then afterwards, then we create a plan on the guidance that has come up during the session. And that person goes away with practices and a plan to help sustain how they are feeling. And what people say after a session is, oh my God, I feel so much lighter. My mind is quiet. I feel so connected. I know what to do next. And, you know, this is the true essence of who you are, is to be able to operate like this most of the time. It's not to say that something will happen and you'll get upset or, you'll feel low or whatever, but it's being able to ride the waves of emotions and come back to that baseline where you just feel content. You haven't won the lottery, you know, you're not deeply sad or depressed. You're just at that baseline where you are just really content. And being able to come back to that place and regulate yourself will only happen through alignment and when you are connected to those three centers. So you're listening to your body signals, your intuition, and your heart. And when people connect with these centers and start to put this into practice, I always get lengthy messages saying, Katie, I can't believe this, that, and the other thing happened. I'm not as reactive. I'm so much happier in my body. I feel so much more grounded and connected. I can think more clearly. I got the job. I found love. Like, I finally moved out of that house or ended that toxic relationship. And not because I did anything, but because they finally were able to connect with themselves and listen to their own inner guidance and be able to navigate life from an embodied perspective rather than their mind. And, children are very connected in this way, but of course, society, our upbringing, all sorts of environmental and um, different backgrounds will alter that. So it's just coming back to the truth of who we are and feeling light, calm, and clear isn't much to ask for. And what a lot of clients say to me is, I wish I came sooner. I wish I didn't struggle and suffer for so long before I showed up for myself or I asked for help. Um, because, we try to push through it and be like, oh, it'll be over soon, or we try to fix everything, or we try to stay positive. And we absolutely exhaust ourselves in that process. And we were never meant to heal alone. We were meant to heal through community and support and peers. And I know it can be very, very daunting to ask for help or to reach out, but people are so good to help and to give advice and to point you in the right direction. And there's also this element of like not feeling worthy, not feeling worthy of feeling good or feeling ashamed for the thoughts that you're having or how you're feeling. And this can become an identity. And there is a version of you underneath that stress and that fear and all of the things that you've been carrying. And you cannot connect with that aspect of you when you have all of this heaviness and when you're so out of alignment that, your body's over there in the west and your head is up there in the north and your heart is over there in the south. Like, how can you feel together? How can you move forward in life when your energy is scattered all over the place? And that's essentially what I do. I help people to come home to themselves through breath, through embodiment, through energy healing, through giving guidance and practices that empower you and educate you on how you can, one, stop pushing the boulder up the mountain every day and go along the path of least resistance, go downstream rather than trying to swim against the current. And so many of us try and swim against the current because that's what we've always done. And we keep going in that direction because we don't know what other direction to go in. So when you zoom out or when you have a second pair of eyes, as in another person, a mentor, or a therapist, or somebody who can see a different perspective, or who can see a different route, or who has walked the path from where you are to where you want to be and has the blueprint. And that's what I help people. I help them to change the direction of where they're going, change the energy of how they're feeling, and start to move into a place that is more in alignment. And when you are in alignment within yourself, your external environment will change dramatically. Why? Because it's an inside out job. And so many of us are trying to fix the outside, thinking that it'll heal the inside. And it doesn't work like that. Our internal reality reflects our external world. So yeah, I really wanted to share that because, so many people are feeling this way and, they don't come until they're on their hands and knees um, as a last resort. And, you know, not knowing or thinking that there is any help or support or maybe they've held on to this for so long that it has become an identity, and there's fear in letting that identity go. And I just want you to know that this is all so normal, and it's all also so much part of your soul's journey and evolution, that these experiences and situations help us to grow and evolve on so many different levels. And it is through this contraction, it is through this resistance that we actually realize that we have more power and more resources than we ever thought. I always like to use the saying that diamonds are made under pressure. And we don't know how strong we are until we're in the trenches and until we have to really, really dig deep to persevere and to get through things. And then, when it is all over and we look back and like, oh my God, how did I ever get through that? And it's like, well, when it comes down to it, we find the strength, we find the energy. But to be constantly in that fight or flight stage or constantly battling with life, that's when we're like, okay, something needs to change. Who or what can I do that will support me in moving in a new direction or changing my perspective on life? So if that resonates with you, I would love to have a chat, or if you feel like I could support you in any way, please feel free to reach out. I'll leave my contact details in the show notes before. But I would also love to hear from you. How has your healing journey been? How has your evolution been? Like, what have you been doing or trying that has helped you or shaped you into the person you are? Or maybe you've tried everything and nothing has worked. So please feel free to reach out, share your story. I would love to hear from you. But thank you so much for tuning in today, and I look forward to connecting with you in the next podcast.